Yes, all of you out there in the dark. Here is another episode of the top 10 best films of some of the greatest directors in all of cinema.
The question is, Frau Helm, were you lying then? Are you lying now? Or are you not, in fact, a chronic and habitual liar?
No, I'm not lying, my friends. I'm starting from 10 and then straining spaghetti with a tennis racket, as well as swearing off booze all the way up to number 1.
Mildred! He's at it again!
Yes, I have seen every film attainable of every artist here, so every list, keep that in mind, every list comes from honest, hysterical, handy, and hot-blooded accuracy.
From the world's greatest library of film classics, we proudly present...
That's right, folks. Today, we are talking about a legendary artist of cinema, a name that every classic film lover knows and can instantly cite their favorite film directed by them in a second. And so this one will be very hard. I could, honest to God, do a top 20 for this man. He has made some of the most amazing, thought-provoking, progressive, hysterical, and entertaining films of the 20th century that still stand the test of time. Writer, producer, and director Billy Wilder. Samuel Wilder was born in Sucha, a small town in Galicia in what's known as Poland today, from a Jewish family. At that time, the Austro-Hungarian Empire. His mother nicknamed him Billy after she saw the Buffalo Bill Wild West shows in New York, seeing Samuel was such a rambunctious kid. After not following in the family bakery business, he became a journalist on tour with many bands, as well as took on taxi cab dancing. Can you imagine that? Which was basically a paid dance partner. With developing enough connections in entertainment, Billy was able to get into writing for the newspaper tabloids, and then in the picture business in Berlin, which was even then, around the 1930s, such an exciting time for German cinema, giving rise to the expressionistic movement with such artists like Fritz Lang, F.W. Murnau, who was already a big deal at that point, Joseph von Sternberg, etc., spawning the real movement of Strassenfilm, German for street film, which is equivalent to the French New Wave and Neo-Realist wave in the 1960s. Wilder got to the point of making his first film in Paris in 1934, but this was a turning point when Adolf Hitler rose in power. So to escape the genocide, Billy, among other European filmmakers, fled to Hollywood, where it certainly came with horrible tragedy, that being Billy's family being victims of the Holocaust, all being separated and murdered in different camps. Billy felt terrible, obviously, but knew he had to make something of himself. With one of the greatest talents Billy had, writing. His transition to Hollywood is inspirational in of itself, because the luck you can encounter surely happened for Billy, meeting Ernst Lubitsch, being one of Lubitsch's greatest co-writers, along with longtime writing companion Charles Brackett, with writing the screenplays of Bluebird's Eighth Wife, Midnight, and then Ninotchka, with Billy and Charles receiving their first Oscar nomination for screenplay, making even further waves with their Oscar-nominated screenplays again with Hold Back the Dawn and Ball of Fire. It was only at this time where Billy swore he had to make his own films, since in his own words, directing was fun, writing was real work. When you have an artist like Billy Wilder on your studio lot, you'll have a creative that will fight for what he wants in the most stubborn way, thus creating some hot and stressful partnerships. To some, if not most people, Billy Wilder is their favorite director, their favorite filmmaker, period. He's one of the few brilliant screenwriters who have so successfully transitioned into directing that still inspire filmmakers all over the world. Whether it was hysterical farce, heartwarming romance, to haunting crime waves, Billy Wilder earned a legacy of being one of the most versatile and most recognized filmmakers in the vast and timeless heaven on earth. That is cinema.
I think Papa has it all figured out. Figured out and wrapped up in tissue paper with pink ribbons on it.
Okay there, baby. We are ready for our close-up on the top 10 best films directed by the Viennese Pixie, as he was called. The bedazzlingly brilliant Billy Wilder. So starting off at number 10, The Lost Weekend.
What you don't understand, all of you, is that I've got to know what's around, that I can have it if I need it. I can't be cut off completely.
He wants to be alone with that bottle of his. It's all he gives a hang about.
Okay, I know this is a total shocker for you avid Wilder fans, considering the influence and significance of this film around its release of 1945. Based on the novel by Charles Jackson, Ray Milland is Dan Burnham, a struggling writer in New York City who has a strong addiction to booze. And the story is just an unfolding of how a life can be crushed because of the bottle.
Come on, I need that liquor. I want it and I'm gonna get it, understand? I'm gonna walk out of here with that quarter rye, one way or another.
Wilder was inspired to write and direct this piece since it apparently relieved his pain of collaborating with novelist Raymond Chandler the year previously, who was a struggling alcoholic. We all cannot deny the amount of phenomenal shots. We, the audience, can smell the bourbon off of Ray Milland's breath. The studios received so much backlash from both the liquor industry that they would offer Paramount Pictures $5 million in order to destroy the negative. The temperance boards were all over the picture, claiming it would promote heavy drinking because of the platform of the screen. But Wilder knew to stick to his guns and see it through. This would be the first picture where any artist would win the Academy Awards for both screenplay adaptation and directing for the same film in the same year. Not only did Billy walk away with those coveted awards, but having The Lost Weekend earn Best Picture of the Year? Now at this point, Billy would be on top of the world in cinema. And I know for some true alcoholics, it definitely worked and helped them of rehabilitating themselves. That's an amazing victory.
We're both trying. You're trying not to drink, and I'm trying not to love you.
Number 9, Stalag 17.
You can be the heroes, the guys with fruit salad on your chest. Me, I'm staying put. I'm gonna make myself as comfortable as I can. And if it takes a little trading with the enemy to get me some food or a better mattress, that's okay by Sefton. Why, you crud.
You bet POW is one of the great examples of blending war with comedy that surely inspired films and TV shows like The Great Escape and Hogan's Heroes, based on the Broadway play and on a true story, certainly, of the true Stalag 17 camp in Austria, with an oddball cast of theater and film legends led by Bill Holden, the second of 4 films he would do with Wilder, in an Oscar-winning performance as Sefton, one of the hundreds of airmen held prisoner, who was one of the most cynical and scheming. Once a few escapees get killed, they suspect Sefton as the informant. But can it be true?
What's the matter, boys? My slip showing?
Film is really more comical than a hard action mystery, and is one of the best POW films in my opinion, resulting in great box office success and another Academy Award nomination for Wilder for Best Director. Holden begged Wilder to make his character more likable, which Wilder refused. And I do love that confidence that Wilder inhabited, the same confidence that refused to make the SS officers Polish instead of German, as was heavily influenced by Paramount Pictures because they didn't want to create any issues with Germany. Wilder said frick no. His family was killed by German Nazis. They're gonna be German. Thus creating such a bad riff with Paramount that this would be the second to last film he would do for Paramount. What's the last film he did for Paramount? Funny you should ask. That is our number 8 selection, Sabrina.
Well, hello, how are you?
Well, I'm fine. How are you? And I might add, who are you?
Who am I?
Am I supposed to know?
Come to think of it, no, you're not supposed to know.
You may be surprised with how low this is, considering how much of a beloved fan favorite this film is, that Wilder, of course, adapted and directed for the screen, which stars a magical trio of the best stars of Hollywood: Humphrey Bogart, William Holden, and Sabrina herself, Audrey Hepburn, based on the Broadway play Sabrina Fair, partnering up with screenwriter Ernest Lehman to adapt it, which was hell, to say the least, considering Wilder would start shooting with an unfinished script. He and Lehman would write it frantically, causing Lehman to have a nervous breakdown, writing a scene during lunch, then filming it in the afternoon. Absolute craziness! Despite all the issues that came about with Bogey, not liking Audrey, not liking Bill Holden, and the last-minute script changes and updates, Wilder creates a magically romantic mood and world that we all fall victim to. Yes, Bogey is old enough to play Audrey's frickin' father, who is played brilliantly by John Williams. But it doesn't matter. How Wilder just moves the romance along, letting the camera just sit on Audrey's beauty, soaking up every bit of the lens. It is just confident and smart filmmaking, earning him his 9th Oscar nomination for co-writing the screenplay and his 5th Oscar nomination for directing. Now, number 7, A Foreign Affair. Yes, it pains me, my friends, not to rate this higher because of how brilliant and quietly hilarious, and yes, also very personal film this is for Billy Wilder. This impactful romantic comedy drama was inspired from a story idea that Billy Wilder was immediately introduced to while he was serving as the chief of the movie division of the American Information Control Division in Germany during World War II. And he was promised government assistance for making this film about Allied occupied Germany, and this being 1947, 2 years after the end of World War II. The clear-cut shots on location of Berlin are just astounding, filming for a month to get the real impact of what's become in Germany. All the while, a love triangle is occurring in the narrative. Wilder interviewed many of the American military personnel still stationed in Berlin, as well as its residents, knowing so much truth of what had occurred. You would think this film and approach was done way too soon for audiences to really appreciate and enjoy, which evidently happened. Critics saying it was in bad taste to have a film cover post-war Berlin with a love story. It still received some flowers in its initial release, with earning 2 Oscar nominations for Best Cinematography and, of course, still Best Screenplay for Wilder and great writing partner Charles Brackett, and deservedly so. As a whole film, it just works splendidly with its comedy, with its great performances from the 2 main leads, Marlene Dietrich and Jean Arthur, both fighting for the filming affections for Wilder, for better close-ups, and gorgeous photography. Everything about this film is very dear and gripping for the film's scholar and audience member who appreciates the art of blending themes that will challenge the viewer. It's another clear case on how Wilder was indeed ahead of the times. Number 6, Witness for the Prosecution.
I'll give you something to dream about, mister. Wanna kiss me, ducky?
You've all seen it. That's no spoiler, come on. But yes, the Agatha Christie classic brought to majestic life on screen by Billy. Co-written with Harry Kurnitz, the only time they collaborated together, given that Kurnitz called Wilder Mr. Hyde and Mr. Hyde. No surprise whatsoever. But again, we believe it was based in Wilder's perfectionism that was usually in the right direction. And it's amazing how for years, audiences thought this was a Hitchcock film for how mysterious and yet wildly engaging it is. And I say that's a damn great compliment. Even though Wilder was no master of suspense, he certainly was such a master of dialogue, with one hell of a great ensemble. I think it's brilliant that Wilder, in pure Wilder fashion, wrote in the character of Miss Plimsoll, played by Oscar nominee Elsa Lanchester, and the banter between Sir Wilfrid, her amazing husband, Charles Laughton, and Miss Plimsoll was written in by Wilder to increase the audience attraction, which, needless to say, works like a charm.
We'd have a bit of sun for our homecoming. I always say it's worth having all the fog just to appreciate the sunshine. Is there too much of draft? Shall I roll up the window?
Just roll up your mouth. You talk too much. If I'd have known how much you talked, I'd never have come out of my coma.
The legendary Marlene Dietrich agreed to play the fatally loving Christine Vole only if Wilder was directing, for after working together on A Foreign Affair, they were like European kindred spirits almost. And it's no question that Wilder was able to bring out such strong performances from quote-unquote movie stars like Dietrich and Tyrone Power, even when it comes to that ending, which you know I can't be that bad in flat-out spoiling. Wilder made it a concrete, non-negotiable point for the cast not to know the last 10-page ending until the very last shooting days, continuing the honor system for the audience not to reveal the ending after seeing the film. That's where you got the Hitchcock gimmick as well as the William Castle gimmick, which successfully made this sensational courtroom drama one of the greatest courtroom dramas of all time, even on AFI's top 10 best courtroom drama list. It received 6 Oscar nominations, including Best Picture and indeed Best Director again for Wilder, which he wholeheartedly deserved.
Damn you! Damn you! Leave her alone! Damn you!
Number 5, Ace in the Hole.
Phony, below-the-belt journalism, that's what it is.
Not below the belt, right in the gut, Mr. Boot. Human interest.
You heard me, phony. For all I know, there isn't even a Leo down there.
Yes, there is. Tatum made sure of that.
I love this film. Probably shocking to see this highly energetic classic so high. But That's show business, baby. You will understand why it is so damn high soon enough. Also crazily known as The Big Carnival, starring Kirk Douglas as a cynical and baffling reporter who's looking for the next big story to get him back on top with a major newspaper. And once he gets wind of a guy trapped in a cave, slowly suffocating, he takes the advantage of covering the story with an extra dose of corruptive journalism afoot. You would not believe this, folks, but Billy Wilder himself has said of all the films he had made, this was most likely his best work, the best film he's ever done. I have to emphasize that for this artist because you have to understand, at this time of making Ace in the Hole, he was already an Oscar-winning big shot, so he could afford to make such a sick, cynical, catastrophically disheartening film about the most ruthless of sharks in journalism, as well as in law enforcement. It would be the next movie Billy would write without his writing partner, Charles Brackett, and also be the first big-time commercial and critical failure for Billy. A tough film like this is surely not what his public and critics were expecting. And even to today's standards, it is such a gripping and hard film to take, which showcases the man's artistic integrity and process for cinema. Another piece of controversy for this was another lawsuit hitting Wilder's door for the screenplay, which earned Wilder his 8th Oscar nomination for Best Story and Screenplay. This lawsuit came at plagiarism for basing itself on the Floyd Collins story, which Wilder was able to get out of. Critics destroyed this movie in 1951, but retrospectively, to cinephiles, filmmakers, and critics everywhere, it certainly remains one of the great and underrated gems way ahead of its time, which speaks so effectively today, featuring literally one of the greatest ending shots, which I won't spoil. Well, yes, I will. But with Kirk Douglas' bitter face in shadow right in front of us is spellbinding. Anyone who's anyone has to love and appreciate the guts that Wilder punched with this film that was entered into the National Film Registry in 2017 for its cultural significance. Number 4, Some Like It Hot.
Yeah, real hot.
Oh, well, I guess some like it hot. I personally prefer classical music.
Tony Curtis said the thing. You thought this would be much higher, didn't you? Well, it should be. But my friends, it is one hell of a classic that has been rated by critic circles all over as one of the greatest films of all time, let alone one of the greatest comedies, being one of the first 25 films inducted into the National Film Registry in 1989 for its cultural significance of 2 bonehead musicians. I mean, they're not really that dumb. Witnessing the St. Valentine's Day Massacre, caught in the act of witnessing, and on the run in drag, joining an all-female tour band where they both vie for the affections of its lead singer, Sugar Cane, played by Marilyn Monroe.
It's me, Sugar.
You have any idea how many takes it took Marilyn for that one line? 47. And
Where's that bourbon?
that line, 28 takes.
Zowie.
Yes, my God, the legends are true with how challenging it was for Marilyn. But it's admirable how Billy never really lost it on Marilyn. If anything, he might have taken out his frustration on Tony Curtis and Jack Lemmon. But ever the professionals, they hung on to create comedic joy on screen. This being the first of 7 collaborations between one of the greatest director-actor teams on screen, Jack Lemmon and Billy Wilder. Wilder was so smart to adapt this story from the French film Fanfare of Love with Izzy Diamond, concocting some of the most memorable and iconic lines from a comedy like,
"You must be quite a girl. Want to bet?"
I'm engaged. Congratulations. Who's the lucky girl?
I am.
and so many more. Production was indeed hale until they filmed the beautiful conclusion of the hotel stay at the Hotel del Coronado in San Diego, which I have been at, if I do say so myself. It is gorgeous. Honestly, the best beach I've ever laid on.
That's what she said?
Hey now, classically a little behind in upkeep, but it's legendary, with a section in their lobby dedicated to Some Like It Hot, playing the movie right there on a loop. Now, how's that for impact? So much impact that it resulted in 6 Oscar nominations, including Best Adapted Screenplay and Best Director for Wilder, winning for its gorgeous costume design. It was indeed much smarter to set the film in the 1920s so that apparently drag would be more easy to navigate for these two male actors rather than in modern times. And even in today's modern time, it's easy to be sniffy and snotty with how the characters are treating drag and how they look in drag, but in all honesty, it's never disrespected. In fact, it's really celebrated when you see the final line of the film, which, hands down, friends, you know, it's one of the greatest last lines of a film ever, with Lemon and Joey Brown on that boat, with Lemon opposing Brown's marriage proposal.
I can never have children. We can adopt some. But you don't understand, Osgood. I'm a man. Well, nobody's perfect.
Brilliant. Absolutely brilliant. Number 3, Double Indemnity.
And nobody's pulling out. We went into this together and we're coming out at the end together. It's straight down the line for both of us. Remember?
Babies, you have no idea how hard it is to rate, in my opinion, the most essential film noir ever made at only number 3.
Pretty, isn't it?
Yes, it is, Walter, based on the novella, indeed, by James M. Cain, who just came off strong after writing The Postman Always Rings Twice. Wilder was one of the first choices to direct this by Paramount, and of course had to include his partner, Charles Brackett. But Brackett allegedly found the material vulgar and backed out, so the studio appointed another noirvilist, being the great Philip Marlowe wannabe, Raymond Chandler. Yes, that film that inspired The Lost Weekend, it was from this relationship. They hated working with each other, mostly because of how Wilder thought Chandler was too crazed with his alcoholism, and Chandler thinking Wilder was too manipulative, volatile, and just plain controlling. Which, yes, both are true when it comes to writing. However, it's the red-hot sauna room of fury that ignites such a powerful screenplay like this that is truly one of the greatest screenplays ever written, hands down, with some of the most iconic lines again.
How could I have known that murder can sometimes smell like honeysuckle?
It's incredible how Wilder incorporated the voiceover flashback of a doomed man, which is sometimes such a no-no in fictional writing, narration being so lazy, but not with Wilder, ever. Also, never forget how brilliant Wilder casts actors perfectly for his films, with the one main gimmick of casting unconventional actors for such villainous roles, like that of nice guy Fred McMurray and legendary queen Barbara Stanwyck as the epitome of the femme fatale. I love the fact that Barbara Stanwyck didn't want to do it, coming off strong with 2 comedies, Ball of Fire, co-written by Wilder, and The Lady Eve. So she turned it down, with Wilder stating, "Oh, I'm sorry, I thought you were an actress, not a mouse." People still complain about the wig, a Paramount exec stating, and I quote, "We hired Barbara Stanwyck for this, and we get George Washington here." But Wilder justified the wig because it shows Phyllis Dietrichson as a phony, a liar, deceiver, someone who has ulterior motives of some kind, which increases the fun. And of course, the way Wilder shot this thriller. One of the greatest shots is the actual murder scene, where Wilder just lets the camera sit on Barbara's face as Fred commits the deed, and we see the wheels turning like it's all going accordingly. It's so chilling. Once again, you know it's a Wilder picture because of the amount of comedy that pops up all over the place. And when you have the brilliant support from Edward G. Robinson, you have a perfect balance of all genres. The film became a massive success, really putting Billy on the map for versatility in different projects, earning 7 Academy Award nominations, notably for Best Adapted Screenplay and Best Director for Billy, his first Best Directing Oscar nomination, losing out on all of them for Leo McCarey's Going My Way. And Wilder did get quite bitter and petty, apparently, tripping Leo McCarey on his way up to the podium, accepting his Best Director Oscar. Wilder, quote-unquote, got his revenge the next year with the accolades for The Lost Weekend. And you know, who has the last laugh? Double Indemnity, that's who. Being honored in the National Film Registry in 1992, honored on every critics and journalists circle as one of the greatest films of all time, and really the staple on what film noir would become and flourish into. Just wonder about it.
I wonder if you wonder.
Number 2, The Apartment.
Are we dressing for dinner?
You know, just come as you are.
So you're pretty good with that racket.
You should see my backhand. Where'd you see me serve the meatballs?
I couldn't deny it, folks, and neither should you, for this romantic comedy/drama is everything so joyful and powerful and what makes us love classic films, argued by most as his crown achievement, nominated for a total of 10 Oscars, winning 5 of them, 3 of those going to Wilder for Best Picture, Best Original Screenplay, shared with Izzy Diamond, and his second win for Best Director, becoming the first director to win all 3 honors. Previously talked about on my very first top 10 video ever on Jack Lemmon, he is perfectly cast here again as C.C. Baxter, a hopeless clerk who works on the 19th floor, Ordinary Policy Department, Premium Accounting Division, desk number 861, an insurance company. Obviously, the only way for him to move on up in his job is to lend his key to his apartment to a couple of higher-up executives to take their mistresses when he starts to fall in love with Miss Fran Kubelik, played wonderfully by Shirley MacLaine. He thinks a brand new romantic and purposeful life can begin until he learns she's actually the mistress of his main boss, J.D. Sheldrake, played with such menace by the absent-minded professor, Fred McMurray.
The mirror, it's broken.
Yes, I know. I like it that way. Makes me look the way I feel.
The photography is just very elegant, and it represents the magic and hope of New York. That it does give the yearn of wanting to live there. It's definitely one of the best New York films, period. Despite the fact that we have our hero surrounded by evil, sex-driven businessmen, it remains ever so relevant to the human spirit of today, especially as one of a million New York stories of personal growth and romance. Wilder apparently got the idea of the script from David Lean's brief encounter, asking himself, well, what about the guy that lent his apartment for Trevor Howard and Celia Johnson? Like, what morals does he have? It's such a good idea, and also based on a real-life affair between Joan Bennett and producer Walter Wanger, which ended up not so happy. Well, but being a Billy Wilder film, it was still testing audiences with its depiction of adultery. It remains one of the greatest romantic comedies and one of the greatest films of all time. Again, with one of the greatest last lines in a film.
I love you, Miss Kubelik.
3. Queen.
Did you hear what I said, Miss Kubelik? I absolutely adore you.
Shut up and deal.
All right, folks, here are some honorable mentions for you. The 7-Year Itch, which, like I said in Marilyn's Top 10 video, it's not one of my personal favorites, and it wasn't one of Wilder's favorites either, calling it a nothing picture, using George Axelrod's play script as a doorstop rather than a guide. However, it surely is iconic, centering on that glorious subway vent shot up Monroe's white skirt.
Oh, do you feel the breeze from the subway? Isn't it delicious?
Yes, it is delicious, even though Marilyn's husband, Joe DiMaggio, certainly didn't think so. Ugh. Marking the first headache in collaboration with Marilyn and Wilder, with the tardiness and all. But it's amazing how Wilder was still so patient, so believing in Marilyn's appeal and abilities. It's always amazing how Wilder was able to get away with these themes of adultery in his films, even though it was chopped to bits for the film, thank you Hays Code. And it's also amazing how Walter Matthau was screen tested for Tom Yule's role, and obviously didn't get it, but created a lovely working relationship, like doing The Fortune Cookie, among others, also resulting in Wilder receiving an Oscar nomination for a screenplay in that one. Oh, I love that one. God, there's just so many! Avanti, a beloved classic by big-time Wilder fans, even though it certainly didn't receive that same love when it initially released in 1972. Collaboration number 5 between Wilder and Lemmon, which honestly works when most critics said it didn't. For the play it's based is quite serious and dramatic at heart, and it was of course up to Wilder to bring out the comedy. It's certainly not romporously hysterical, but its charm is what makes it so comforting, with the beautiful on-location shots of Naples and Capri, some controversial nudity of Lemon and Hayley Mills' sister, Juliet. Scandalous. And side note, I can't stand how Juliet was pinpointed as being fat and chubby in this movie. Juliet actually gained 25 pounds for this role, and quite frankly, she still looks great. I personally don't see what the big deal was with that, but anyway, this was a very charming picture that earned Wilder Golden Globe nominations for both screenplay and directing, and a strong cult following. Irma la Douce, another beloved cult classic to this day, featuring another pairing of Lemon and Shirley MacLaine recreating the success of The Apartment, surely. Based on the musical, Wilder was surely not going to be doing a freaking musical, for he didn't feel comfortable, and neither did Shirley, for she didn't think much of the film either. But when you're in the company of Wilder and Lemon, you're going to have a great amount of fun. And while I think the film is way too long, it is still a tour de force of comedy for Lemon, MacLaine, and Wilder. 1, 2, 3. A comedy classic. Again, that's not a comedy, but it only is because of the brilliant work by one of the greatest actors ever, Jimmy Cagney as McNamara, and its direction by Wilder, directing Cagney to fire off his lines like an Aston Martin going 140 miles per hour, for crying out loud. It's amazing how Wilder never escaped political upheaval, with filming in Berlin right when the Berlin Wall was put up. So they had to move shooting to Munich. Not a bad decision. Also not a bad decision to have a laugh out loud final reference in its ending, because the fact that Cagney's character was a Coca-Cola executive in Berlin, appointed head of the board of directors for Pepsi, Joan Crawford, had some words with Wilder about having no negative talk about Pepsi.
Don't fuck with me, fellas!
Which makes that last shot of Cagney with that Pepsi bottle just perfect little icing on that petty little Hollywood cake. The Major and the Minor. Ah, yes. For many, it's one of their favorite Billy Wilder films, which is significant, being Wilder's very first Hollywood film he directed, loosely based on the story Connie Goes Home, with Ginger Rogers as a frustrated scalp massager, heading back to Iowa by train. But after discovering she only has enough money for half the fare, she disguises herself as a little girl to get the child fare ticket, only to let the lie carry her on a full heap of grown-up trouble, even involving love with the Major, played by Ray Milland. The premise is absolutely ridiculous and risque to make a comedy version of Lolita, basically. But we love it because it's Wilder, bringing out the charm in screwball comedy that he always did with no scruples if it offended people in the worst way. If it did, fantastic. It'll sell greatly. So majorly, he was a man making a living, but minorly, a man that inspired all of us. Number 1, that's right, Sunset Boulevard.
You're Norma Desmond. Used to be in silent pictures. Used to be big.
I am big. It's the pictures that got small.
Classic film lovers, you know damn well how astonishing, legendary this film is, considering how huge, how self-reflective, and smart satire it was when it was released in 1950, 75 years ago this year. Sunset Boulevard. Sorry, I can't help it. Classic Billy with his satire on the corruption and cynicism of Hollywood. What it takes for actors and writers to get ahead and scheme their way in as a faded star is trying to get back in the dirty limelight.
Haven't they got any eyes? Have they forgotten what a star looks like? I'll show them. I'll be up there again, so help me.
Oh, poor Norma. For most, this is the quintessential film about Hollywood. And when you have a damn great script by Billy and Charles Brackett, which would sadly be their last together due to creative differences, you can't deny its unbelievable pulling power. A power so huge that, like Some Like It Hot and The Apartment, which spawned Promises, Promises, would spawn a big-time Broadway musical that's about to finish its gigantic revival, which I saw, and quite frankly, I wasn't too big of a fan. I like what Andrew Lloyd Webber did with it when it first premiered, surely, but this recent Jamie Lloyd production, it just made me remember and appreciate how damn brilliant this stark haunting, yet truly hysterical film this is. When you have the faded star who lives for her own films in such over-the-top, operatic, grandiose favor, juxtaposed with a young, hot, scheming, hard-bitten writer, it creates such an odd pairing that gives us, the audience, the permission to laugh at every turn, and yet be terrified in just a drop of a hat. Because it combines both elements of comedy and tragedy and horror that begs to deal with how funny life is, no matter how traumatizing it might be or how scary it might be. It's the great strength of Wilder that really bends the rules of film noir that we all find amazing and inspirational. While I still think Double Indemnity is the better film noir in the purest sense and definition of the genre, Sunset Boulevard takes the genre of film noir and really flips it on its head with so many commercial laughs that it works splendidly. Billy got the idea of the film from the novel The Loved One, intended to be a star vehicle for Marlon Brando and Mae West. Now, that would have been a different kind of picture. And he was finally convinced by George Cukor to have Gloria Swanson just nail this heavy role with all the fun and all the campiness that makes it so true and tragic. And the teaming of Bill Holden with Gloria Swanson, along with Nancy Olson, Eric von Stroheim as Max, with these four performances resulting in another miraculous accolade of Oscar nominations, being the fifth film in history to be nominated in every acting category. That should have won for Gloria's towering performance.
Don't just stand there hating me. Shout at me. Strike me, but don't hate me. Say you don't hate me, Joe.
God, what a year for film, am I right? However, Billy would certainly earn his Oscar accolade for a Best Director nomination, naturally, and his second win for Best Screenplay. Man, how I enjoy the holy hell out of this film. It remains one of the most iconic in cinema that has been parodied and paid homage to like crazy. Between Tiny Toon Adventures with Sepulveda Boulevard, to Carol Burnett with Sunnyset Boulevard, to the Twilight Zone episode, The 16mm Shrine with Ida Lupino, to Twin Peaks even. David Lynch was such a big Billy Wilder fan because that's how good a film can be that Wilder believed in with entertainment. And with that grand finale with Norma on the stairs, creeping up to us like frickin' Dracula, for God's sakes, closing us out with that breathtaking top 10 on AFI line.
There's nothing else. Just us. And the cameras. And those wonderful people out there in the dark. All right, Mr. Demille, I'm ready for my close-up.
Billy Wilder knew with its 11 Oscar nominations and its 3 wins total, this was a bona fide masterpiece. What other writer, producer, director in Hollywood can say they've directed 16 performances that received Oscar nominations, 3 of them having won? And throughout his whole filmography of directing 26 films, 73 Oscar nominations came out total, with 17 wins. And Billy received 7 total, including his Irving Thalberg Memorial Oscar in 1988. Oh, of course, it didn't stop there. With his AFI Lifetime Achievement Award in 1986, Kennedy Center Honors in 1990, and the National Medal of Arts in 1993. Without Billy Wilder, we wouldn't have some of the most intelligent and phenomenal artists in the business, like, dare I say it, Mel Brooks, Albert Brooks, Coppola, Scorsese, Spike Lee, David Lynch, and Steven Spielberg, who actually reached out to Billy Wilder if Billy wanted to direct Schindler's List instead of Spielberg. He's definitely made some enemies along his career path. His frankness and his unfiltered wrath was unmatched when it came to creativity, Peter Bogdanovich being a victim of it at one point. He was an absentee father to his 2 kids, but remember what Billy wrote?
Well, nobody's perfect.
And he certainly wasn't, but he has affected us all in every emotion. He has inspired all of us filmmakers. He has inspired all of us actors. He has made such classics, such films that make us love going to the movies. Such films in cinema that have challenged, enlightened, delighted, tickled, rickled, fascinated, troubled, and entertained us for decades and infinite more to come.
Good night, honey.
Oh, good night now. But first tell me, my dear friends, do you agree with my picks?
Well, speak up, boys. Any more sports in the crowd?
What are your favorite films directed by the acclaimed Austrian auteur, but really the brilliant storyteller, Billy Wilder? Share as much as you want in the comments, my friends. I love it all. If you like this, please click like, subscribe, and stay tuned for more top 10s to come your way. But please subscribe to the Patreon page to receive first dibs and vote for what you would want to see next, as well as members-only content. You'll thank me later for it. Thank you all so very much for watching and supporting, and be sure to keep those classic films alive and close to your heart.
Closer than that, Walter.
I love you too.
I love you too, folks.